Next up, we got Terrance McKinney versus Chris Duncan. Now, this is going to be a banger of a fight, and I do think this breakdown is pretty easy, honestly, in sense of I feel like it's going to be Terrance McKinney in the first round, and if it goes beyond the first round, it's likely going to be Chris Duncan. We've just seen from Terrance McKinney, that's my dog, and this is a tough ass fight for me because it feels like my parents going at it. You know what I mean? I love both of these guys. These guys are both awesome. I've cashed on both of them, especially Chris Duncan. We can look at some of his recent fights. Chris Duncan has cashed me throughout the years, or I guess he hasn't been in the UFC that long. It was 2023. Yeah. Well, I remember the biggest cash I ever had on Chris Duncan was I had him by submission against Jordan Vucenic. He was like a plus 245, and the submission prop was even higher. I don't know what the hell it was at. It was like plus 400 or something. It was pretty up there. But yeah, I remember Chris Duncan cash is huge in that spot. I was super happy about that one. So I am a big Chris Duncan fan. And besides the bets, I just like him a lot as a person too. I like both of these guys. Terrance McKinney on the other hand, T-Rex, that's my guy. I love them both. So this is a tough one. But I guess emotion aside, who we think is going to win, I do feel like Terrance McKinney, we see from him, when fights go beyond the second or the first round, he really starts to slow down. You know, the main example of that, not the Esteban Riovich, the main one was Nazim Sadykhov, and there was another one too. Who else am I thinking of? I swore there's another one I was thinking of too. No, it wasn't John Woodson. No, who else was I thinking of? Maybe it was the Bonfim fight. This is what it was. Yeah, sorry. It was the Bonfim fight. Because we saw in that fight, you know, he looked good early on. It was back and forth. It was decently competitive. The second round came back, though. Second time, when they got off the stool, second round came around. Terrance McKinney just did not look good. He really slowed down. That was the worst thing. Yeah, he had his mouth guard come out, and that kind of led to him getting knocked out. Wasn't the best look. But it was just, he really started to slow down. And we saw when he slows down, I don't want to say he withers out there, but he does kind of let guys start to take over, and guys can really kind of enter a flow state. We've seen the guys kind of, that's the best way to describe it. It's like when he starts to slow down, he gets his back against the cage, he lets guys walk him down, and at that point, you kind of know it's the beginning of the end, and that Bonfim fight was the perfect example of that. Even the Nazim Sadykhov is a good example of that too, but the one that stood out to me the most was the Ismail Bonfim fight, where he really was just getting walked down against the cage, and anyone with a bit of cardio and they have power in their hands is probably going to put him out. So I do feel like Terrance McKinney, I don't want to say he's a round one or bust, but that's just his explosive style. You know, that's how he comes. He comes out super hot early on, and if he can get you out, great, but if not, it's going to be a problem. Now, with Chris Duncan, we've seen his moments of adversity that he's had to deal with it where it hasn't looked great at times. We saw Manuel Torres put him out in the first round. Would I be surprised if Terrance McKinney comes out and does the exact same thing? Not at all. You know, Manuel Torres, his grappling is slept on, but I don't want to say it's super or that far ahead of a guy like Terrance McKinney. Terrance McKinney is very dangerous on the ground. I could see him wrapping up a submission early on against a guy like Chris Duncan. So this one is a hard one to predict because I do think Terrance McKinney round one sub, very likely. Now we have seen Chris Duncan deal with the round one knockout before. Miroslav Borsov was round two. What was this fight against? Oh no, Charlie Campbell. He got hurt in this spot. He didn't get knocked out. He got hurt in this spot early on. We have seen his chin been tested early on in the round one, but he actually did end up coming back from this one. I forgot. I actually thought, in my memory, I thought he got knocked out in that spot. But he got hurt in that spot. He ended up coming back in the knockout. But so we've seen him deal with adversity early on. Sometimes we've seen him go his way. Sometimes it's gone the other way. So how do you pick this one? I mean, looking at the money line, it makes sense. Oh, flip you guys back. The lines do make sense. I will say Chris Duncan should be the favorite in the spot because we saw, especially in his last fight against Rebecki, we saw in that last spot, he was able to go long, dog it out, and his cardio looked absolutely great. I mean, compared to like that style that they were pushing, I mean, it was an absolute war, absolute beatdown. We saw that fight go long, and it was really a good sign that gives me a lot more confidence in Chris Duncan to say, okay, you know, he can go to war. You know, he got that absolute dog in him. If this fight, for whatever reason, were to start round 3, which I don't see it happening, but if it were, yeah, I'd say Chris Duncan's very, 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 very likely to get his hand raised or get the finish in that spot. I just don't know if Terrance McKinney's going to be able to go that long. So I don't want to break this one down super far. I really think it's a simple breakdown in the sense of Terrance McKinney probably round 1 or Chris Duncan fight to start round 2 or go later than that. I mean, I really think that's how this fight likely goes. Now, Chris Duncan definitely could get a round 1 finish. We've seen Terrance McKinney put out in the first round before because Ribovic, he put him out in the first round, right? Yeah, that was 37 seconds to the first round, as you can see. So we've seen Terrance McKinney put out in the first round too. For some reason, I thought it was the second round. Or no, it was Nazim Sadykhov, Ismail Bonfim. Drew Dober put him on the first round too. I kind of forgot about that one as well. But yeah, so we've seen both guys get finished in the first round before. Could it happen to either guy? Absolutely. You could look at this and say, well, both guys are extremely dangerous, and we've seen both get finished before, especially in the first round. Maybe you take a shot on the dog. It makes sense. I could see this fight going either guy's way. It's hard to pick. For the pick, I'll go Chris Duncan for the pick just because I do think if this fight starts round 2, I think Chris Duncan likely gets the job done. He'll probably end up winning. So I'll take the risk with Chris Duncan in the spot, but I won't be surprised if Terrance McKinney gets him out of there in the first, I will say. But anyway, does it for this one. I guess the pick will be Chris Duncan ever so slightly.